Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of NFL Draft Triple Take here on Steelers.com. I'm Mike Prisuta from Steelers.com and the Steelers Radio Network, joined by Dale Lolley of SNR and Matt Williamson of SNR. You can hear both of those guys on The Drive on Steelers.com. We have been working our way through the prospective draftees, the draft coming up, the first round, scheduled for April the 23rd, and we've been taking you through it position by position. Today, we're looking at the inside linebackers, the off-the-ball linebackers, the guys who are actually called linebackers as opposed to edge, that new term that has come into vogue in the last couple of years. And Matt Williamson, you can call this whatever you want, but these guys are hard to find, aren't they? Guys that can cover the way you have to cover in today's NFL, but still play the run.
Yeah, it's an interesting time for these guys. I mean, because there's some philosophies out there that I'm just going to cut corners here, use mid-round picks, keep cycling through them. But then you have the situation where the Steelers were in after Ryan Shazier went down, and that area gets picked on by short and intermediate quarterbacks, and that's a problem. So there's a question of what should you pay for a top guy. The Steelers were a perfect case example of going up to get Bush last year, and I don't think anyone's too unhappy about that.
And Dale, you can find those top guys. They're there in every class, but usually there's only a couple of them.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing that's happened at the position in recent years, guys, is that we've seen a lot of teams take safeties, guys who are bigger safeties, like a Mark Barron, who was a safety in college, and you make him a linebacker because of his coverage ability. So we're seeing a shift back to lighter inside linebackers or off-ball linebackers, guys in that 220, 225-pound range where, you know, back in the day, if you remember, Mike, 20 years ago when you had Levon Kirkland and Chad Brown in the middle, and they're both 250-plus pounders. In the case of Kirkland, 280 pounds at times. But, yeah, I mean, teams want the guys that can run and cover.
Yeah, I think Levon might have been 280 in junior high. I'm not sure what he played at, but he played that old school position as well, about as you wanted anybody to play it. Just get in there and stop the run and bang and be a disruptor. Now you got to be so much more. Let's take a look at this year's list. We've got 10 of them for you today on NFL Draft Triple Take, and as always, we'll work from 10 down to 1. And these guys are hard enough to find that we've all three got a different candidate at number 10. Dale, you settled on the tackling machine from Cal, Evan Weaver.
Yeah, I mean, when I watched him play, I looked at him, I said, that kid's like Tyler Matakevich. Makes every play on the field. Might be a little bit faster, actually, but he is just a heady player, never out of position, just makes every play that's there available to him. And I could see where coaches would look at that kid and say, hey, I just want that kid. He's just a football player.
You know, I watched him in the Senior Bowl, and there was a play that really got my attention. The D tackle in front of him was misaligned, so he ran up to the line and did what he could to help physically move the guy, and then still got back into his drop, and they ended up about a 3-yard completion over the middle, but he was right there on the tight end to make the tackle. Maybe not the most gifted guy physically, but boy, that production's just hard to ignore, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And like I said, just a heady player, knows where to be at. It's almost like he's another coach on the field, to your point.
Speaking of converted safeties, Matt, you're feeling the muse from Clemson.
Yeah, this guy is a big safety that tested extremely well at the combine. Obviously, a lot of athletes on that Clemson defense. At a minimum, I think he's a great special teamer, which doesn't say a lot about the bottom of this list. These last 3 or 4 on the list, I don't know, are long-term starters in this league. So I figured let's just add this guy as a puzzle piece to the defense. Let him fly around the ball on the second level. Maybe he can develop into somebody that can match up with tight ends, but he's a projection.
Yeah, you've got Tanner Muse of Clemson, number 10. Dale's got Evan Weaver of Cal, number 10. I've got Joe Bocci of Michigan State, number 10. And
shocker.
Yeah, I know you guys are going to think I'm influenced by the old alma mater, but I will say this. Matt, what you just said about the bottom of the list, I take to heart. It's not hard to get on this list. It's hard to find 10. You know what I mean?
Right.
Joe Bocce's a guy I've seen play just about every game he played in his college career, and he's an old school physical guy. He's an old school playmaker. I like him like a Matakevich type. Put him in there, wind him up, let him go run around on teams, and if you have to play him on D, he's not going to get you killed. I've got Evan Weaver at number 9. Dale and I talked about him pretty extensively. But, Matt, you've got Troy Dye, of Oregon as your number 10 guy. You're in the Pac-12 church, but a different pew.
Yeah, another guy that's undersized, but he's a tall, lean, angular type of guy that looks like he might be able to match up on the Evan Ingrams of the world. Fluid hips, runs well. Not a take-on player, though. I mean, think of him almost more as a big safety.
And moving down to number 8, you and I are in agreement for the first time on this list. We've both got Logan Wilson of Wyoming as our 8th off-the-ball ILE prospect.
And I like him. I mean, he's a good football player. He's a little bit of a throwback to me, and there's a couple of those. He's a big, well-built guy, downhill player. His combine numbers were pretty good. I mean, that shocked me a little bit, and super productive at Wyoming. Maybe he comes in and plays better than projected, but, I mean, he looks like a mid-round guy.
Yeah, I think when you get to this point on the list at this position, you're almost looking for reasons to put a guy in that 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spot. And I like Wilson's production. I like that he was a 3-year captain. If you got to find some intangibles toward the later rounds or the end of the draft, why not? Dale, you're number 8, Davion Taylor of Colorado.
Yeah, he's a safety. He's built like a safety, I should say. 6 foot, 228. But he hits like a linebacker. And the thing that's interesting about him, he was a state champion sprinter in Mississippi. And they put out some pretty good athletes in Mississippi. So, you're looking
better than being a state champ in Nebraska, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit different. Or Wyoming, for that matter.
Right.
This guy can run. He can kind of be that bulked up safety type size guy that a lot of teams are looking for. And I think, he's a guy that will throw his body around as well. Can he hold up? Who knows? But again, at number 8, much like you guys, I'm looking at guys, okay, can this guy be a solid special teams player, maybe get on the field in passing downs, those kind of things? I think he's that kind of guy.
Dale, you've got Troy Dye of Oregon at 7. Anything Matt missed about him that you'd like to point out?
No, I mean, just, again, what you're looking for there, 6'3", 231. He's very much like my number 9 guy, Justin Strnad out of Wake Forest, who was 6'3", 238. Those are the kind of guys that you're getting now. You either get these little guys who are, the bulked up safeties, or you get a rangier, lankier type of linebacker who's, 10 years ago they would have told him, hey, we need you to put on 15 pounds. Now they're telling these guys, hey, we want you in that 230-pound range.
And there seems like a real theme here. There's a lot of guys that are going to be core special teamers at a minimum, maybe a dime linebacker if everything goes pretty well, and maybe if they hit, they're a rangy guy that gets it.
That was good adjustment by Dale a moment ago. I didn't realize I skipped over his number 9, Justin Strnad. But like a good off-the-ball linebacker, Dale came off his guy and went to where the play needed to be made. So we get that kind of intuition going. This is going to be a good draft class. Number 7, Dale's guy was Dye of Oregon. And Matt and I are in agreement again. Malik Harrison of the Ohio State University. Matt, I feel like for a number of years now, I don't care what position or what round, you can look at Ohio State and find somebody.
Yeah, you absolutely can. And he's a bigger body guy, really looks the part. I mean, I could kind of see him kind of a KJ Wright on the ball, Sam traditional linebacker, maybe up at the line of scrimmage, maybe off the ball. Seems to do his best work coming downhill. Good blitzer. Combine performance was a little better than expected. Seems to be getting a little better every year. So his best days might be ahead.
Yeah, pretty athletic for a big guy.
Yeah.
And, another one of those guys at Ohio State, you got to kind of wait your turn, and then you get one shot at it a lot of times to be a starter, and then it's time to move on. I thought he did a lot of things well for Ohio State. Maybe nothing great, but a lot of things well, and that's never a bad thing. Moving up to number 6, and Matt, we'll keep it with you here. Jordan Brooks of Texas Tech.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of buzz about him, and I bet he goes probably a little higher than I had him ranked. Just have some concerns as a cover guy. I mean, I'd have to see more. I'm just not that sold that he's a great cover guy. But he does run well, highly productive, great experience, considered a team leader. I think there's a chance he ends up being a second-day guy.
Yeah, I have Jordan Brooks number 6 as well. I was impressed. He showed up to the combine fresh from labrum surgery, excuse me, and he wanted to run. He didn't want to no-show the combine, even though he was still rehabbing, and ran pretty well. Dale, you have Logan Wilson at number 6. We've hit him pretty hard. It's going to start to arrive with a little more clarity now as we get into the top 5. And my number 5, Dale's number 5, and Matt's number 5. We just hit the 777s on the slot machine. Akeem Davis Gaither of Appalachian State. Dale, why don't you lead off the discussion about him?
Yeah, watching this kid play, I had to, when you look at small school linebackers like this, the first thing that kind of came to my mind was Greg Lloyd. And I'm not saying he's Greg Lloyd, but he's got that same similar size and kind of that same attitude that he brings to the game. He runs around, he'll hit. He's, again, 6'1", 224, so he's not the biggest guy, but, man, he throws his body around, and he's just a football player.
Well,
Aggressive.
Matt, you're out of the group. Is it Appalachian or Appalachian?
Whatever you prefer.
Okay. Probably upsets the people from there.
Maybe we should ask Mr. Gaither and call it whatever he wants, because I don't think I want to be hit by him.
Believe me, that's the last school I want to offend, because I have great respect for that program. But I kind of agree with Dale's take, Matt. This is a guy that looks like the best is yet to come because of the perceived versatility.
Yeah, I think he's a step up from some of those, obviously, 8, 9, 10s on our list that fit this mold in terms of size, speed combination. I think he's further along as a football player. But still, you don't want him taking on guards and fullbacks in the hole all day either. I mean, he's a space player that does have an attitude that Dale mentioned. I mean, he's all over the place.
Dale, you've got Malik Harrison from Ohio State, 4th on your list. Matt, you went with the guy that Dale and I both ignored. And then, Dale, I'm assuming your decision not to include William Gay Jr. from Mississippi State was because of all the off-the-field red flags that sprang up, as was mine. But, Matt, you really like this guy.
I do. I haven't sat down with him and had dinner with him, or would say I'd have him babysit my kids, but apparently his, quote, off-the-field issues were some sort of indiscrepancy about the legitimacy of some test taking. I can overlook that if he can run and hit on Sundays. And allegedly, he punched out his quarterback after not such a great performance. So I just look at that as a case of extreme competitiveness. He just wants to win. Guy might have earned it, might have deserved it.
That is extreme. Yeah, punching the quarterback. That might be a little over the line. Dale, help me out here.
I looked at this guy. I can't get past the fact that he started like 6 career games and was one of the top inside line, or one of the top linebacker recruits in the country. And he started 6 games in his career. And when I turned the tape on of him, yeah, he's fast and he's physical and all that stuff, but he has no idea what he's doing.
He's all over the place.
He runs around like a chicken with his head cut off, overruns plays. I mean, I see the physical attributes, and I wanted to put him on this list somewhere, but I just couldn't do it.
Here's what I couldn't get past. If you punch the punter in the face or the kicker, I mean, who hasn't wanted to hit one of those guys, right?
Or
Kevin, quarterback. You can't punch the quarterback.
You can punch Kevin Gilbride, too.
I've got 4th on my list, Patrick Queen from LSU. We'll be getting to him. You guys have him a little bit higher than I do. Matt's got him at number 3. And, Dale, you've got him all the way up at number 2. I'm impressed. You're really impressed. Why don't you take the floor on Patrick Queen?
Yeah, I mean, he's not quite Devin Bush or Devin White from last season, but he just makes plays. He's all over the field. He's a little bit undersized at 6 foot 229. Again, there's that similar size, but he's what you want in terms of coverage ability, who can still stop the run. And a guy who played on a national championship team, I know he's played in big games and performed well in big games. So I had him a little bit higher than maybe some other people.
And Mike, you mentioned how Ohio State guys have to wait their turn. Well, Queen absolutely had to wait his turn. They've had a lot of loaded, athletic off-the-ball linebackers there over the years. And another note about him, I think it's intriguing. He's by far the youngest of this group. So after coming off such a big year, maybe he's really just starting to hit his stride.
Yeah, you mentioned that in your write-up. You like the guy that maybe doesn't have a ton of experience but is still moldable. You get the raw material, so to speak, but it's not quite a finished product.
Right. And if he would have been at App State or Mississippi State, I'm sure he would have started more than 1 year. And, he just kind of got stuck there. And it was such a great year on a national title team, a lot of big games, like Dale said. And you're not going to turn 21 until, right before your rookie season. I think that's pretty appealing for what he might be year 4, year 5. Yeah,
and as far as I know, I did some research on this guy. I haven't seen him to have allegedly hit a quarterback at all. So I think he's got
that against him.
He's hit quarterbacks, but he just hasn't punched his own quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't think that would have flew too well at LSU.
Number 3 on my list. Now, this guy he can go a number of places, but I took Zach Vaughn of Wisconsin. I know that he rushed a lot off the edge, but he also played a lot off the ball. I think you have him cover when you need him to, and you can use him as a rusher when you want him to. Dale, you've got Kenneth Murray from Oklahoma, number 3. Matt's got Patrick Queen at number 3 and Murray at number 2. Murray's also my number 2. I think we're all in agreement that Kenneth Murray, in addition to having one of the great stories off the field, really a character guy, but what a player. Matt, why don't you start us off on Murray?
Yeah, I was really torn between Murray and Queen, and they both look like they could be in the bottom third of the first round, in that neighborhood. There's a lot of potential landing spots. Murray's a little more physical, in my opinion, but it did worry me a little bit. I didn't see him getting his hands on footballs very often as a coverage player, which worried me a little bit. He's also a little bigger than Queen.
Yeah, that was kind of when I look at him. I to your point, I didn't see him get his hands on a lot of footballs in coverage, and no career interceptions, only 6 career pass defenses, including 4 last year. But yeah, he's a football player. He's good. And to Mike's point about his backstory, if people aren't aware of that, he has 3 adopted younger siblings who are all special needs people. So he's spent time, working with some trials and tribulations in his personal life. And he's a good football player, but I just don't know. To me, I just like Queen a little bit better. They're all going to go in the first round. I mean, these top 3 guys.
Staying with Murray, 2-time captain at Oklahoma. And Peter Schrager told a great story at the Combine. The teams, they bring these guys in and they ask them, what are we going to get from you? And Murray's response, according to what one team told Peter Schrager, he said, I was born to lead. I'll take that and run with it. But as impressive as Murray's story is, there's nobody, maybe in this draft, quite like Isaiah Simmons of Clemson, who is topping all of our lists at off-the-ball linebacker. And guys, are we in agreement? Maybe not the best player in the draft, but the most versatile. You could play this guy at 4 or 5 positions, could you not, Dale?
Yeah, I looked at him and I'm like, man, this is like watching Derwin James and a cross between Derwin James and Devin Bush or Devin White, because he's got linebacker size, but man, he can cover. And he's the thing that struck me when I saw Derwin James in person, I remember seeing him down at the Pro Bowl a couple years ago. I'm like, that guy's a physical freak. When you think about him playing safety, it's like 6'3" and 220 pounds. That's what Isaiah Simmons is. And then you watch him at the Combine go through all the drills and you're like, man, he's just a chess piece that you could put all over the place and it would really work out for you. These are the kind of guys, these are the kind of game-changing players that you're looking for when you're drafting some of these guys that you can use in different spots all over the field.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if the people
right
don't realize. I'm sorry, what's that?
Is he in the right spot at off the ball backer, or you like him somewhere else?
Yes, and I'll get to that in 1 minute, but for people don't realize, I mean, he was 6'3" and 5'8", 238, ran under a 4.4, has by far the biggest wingspan of all these linebackers. Like, it's an amazing body type combination of talents. And people will say things like, yeah, Simmons is a really good blitzer. Well, that's selling him short. I mean, he could flat out line up on the edge and rush the passer down after down and be highly effective. You know, he can play deep middle center field and not be exposed. I mean, it's pretty crazy. My reservation is, though, we've seen some of these guys, and like Miles Jack isn't in this level, but he was similar in that, oh, he could play slot corner. Whoever drafts him, though, better have a plan. You know, when it's 1st and 10 against base personnel, where does he line up every snap? I mean, just throwing him in there and say you're going to do something different snap after snap after snap is easy for us to sit here and say into a laptop, but it isn't necessarily on Sunday afternoon.
So where is that spot?
To me, he's a linebacker. I mean, to me, he's a second-level player, and the more comfortable he gets, the more assignments I'm going to give him differently. Hey, we're playing Carolina this week. You're playing man coverage against Christian McCaffrey. Better example, Baltimore's coming to town. You're our Lamar spy.
Yeah, to Matt's point, Mike, you know, he's a guy – I want him as close to the ball as possible because I think he's a playmaker. And I think if you used him at deep safety or something like that, yes, he would be good. But I don't know that he would be as effective as he is if you put him within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage and just allow him to go get the ball.
Yeah, and particularly in the middle or close to the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Be able to get just about anywhere in the blink of an eye. Matt, you mentioned my only reservation. And I'm wondering, is it a rule when you get into scouting? Do they tell you you always have to have at least one reservation? Because I look at this guy and just say draft him. I don't have any reservation on Isaiah Simmons. I think he's Superman. Are you just following protocol, or do you really have a reservation?
Not much of a reservation. My worry was just don't give him too much too early. I mean, I don't know what his football intelligence is, but adjusting the league is hard enough as it is. Just don't assume that he's going to come in the league and play slot corner, free safety, edge rusher, inside linebacker, and nickelbacker for you, week one.
Fair point.
The other problem with when you do that is all the other guys around him have to adjust to that as well. Right. And so that makes it a problem, but he's certainly capable of doing all those things.
Yeah, and he might be capable of just putting them in the middle and saying, go get the ball.
Yep.
So that's a good plan.
They throw it over your head, go chase it down. If they hand it to somebody in front of you, go tackle them. If the quarterback keeps it, decide whether you want to take it away or just go knock them down. This guy's a keeper. Top 5 pick, right?
Yeah, he should be.
Probably. I mean, it just depends how it lays out. I mean, I think the Giants will be torn between him and a tackle, but if there's 2 quarterbacks in the top 5 and Chase Young and Okudah, maybe he falls to 7, but I mean, top 5 talent.
Yeah, he's not going to have to wait long. That'll do it for our Inside Linebackers segment. We want to remind you that we will be bringing you NFL Draft Triple Take here on Steelers.com throughout the days leading up to April the 23rd. We're working our way through it position by position. In the meantime, you can catch all of us at various places, including Steelers.com and SNR. For Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson, I'm Mike Prisuta. Thanks for tuning in to NFL Draft Triple Take here on Steelers.com.